Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores. Hey, man, a loss is a loss, and we're here to talk about it, bro. We're not just going to sit here and ignore this game like it didn't happen just because we lost, man. We are still 2-2. We still have a lot of season left to play, which is going to be a lot of what we talk about today. But, of course, we got to dive into the overall team. We're going to talk about special teams. We're going to talk about offense. We're going to talk about defense, the outlook for the season, and everything. Now, granted, I was at that game. And, of course, when you're at the game, you miss a lot. You got people standing up in front of you and stuff like that. So when I got back home, I had to take the time to really watch the game again, study some of the film. I went and got a lot of stats for y'all as well. And I want to dive into what the film and the stats say about this Falcons loss for the Washington Commanders. I have a lot of silver linings for you. Again, we're going to take do like a big outlook for the entire season, the near future, with the next couple of games, next 4 games, and also the overall season. Are we still potentially Super Bowl contenders? Are we still at least playoff contenders? Are we going to potentially make some changes to our future predictions compared to what I had going into the season? Should we fire Joe Whitt Jr.? We're going to dive. Should we bench Marshawn Lattimore? We're going to dive into all of that in this video and more. But before we get into everything, make sure you still farm that like button, still farm the subscription button, and still farm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion video just like this one, man. Shouts out to my Watch to the End gang, man. Shouts out to WTTG in the building, and shouts out to my late night crew, man. I'm recording this right now early in the video, 4 a.m. I gotta wake up at 8 a.m. too, so I'm tripping. I guess I'll just get the rest of my sleep when I finally get back home. But shouts out to my late night crew as well. So shouts out to the Watch to the End gang, the late night crew. Shouts out to Noti gang as well too, man. I should have been shouting y'all out. Shouts out to the entire Noti gang that's there immediately after these videos upload, because you have that bell next to the subscription button clicked in. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so let's start with the team overall first. And hey, man, first of all, don't ever embarrass me like that in my home city ever again, Commanders. Because they are sitting here, I mean, when I was at the game, of course, they're sitting there celebrating with all of the Atlanta classics and bangers and stuff like that all throughout the game, before the game, during the game, after the game. And I'm having to sit there and try not to dance and rap to every word to every song and stuff like that. Like, I'm struggling. They're out here playing Jeezy and Dro and stuff. And they're celebrating, they swag surfing, all of this Atlanta specific stuff that is me. But now I'm sitting there having to be petty and all disgruntled, you know, and I'm sitting here catching myself nodding. I'm like, no, they the enemies right now. I can't go for that. You know what I'm saying? We listening to We Up Through There on the way to the game and stuff. Take Me Up Through There, all of that type of stuff, man. It was, bro. That was hard in itself, just culturally having to separate myself from my own city. But also, don't ever go out there and play so bad as an overall team to the point that I'm sitting here saying, thank goodness for Matt Gay. Thank goodness for Matt. One of the best players of the game was Matt Gay. And honestly, he kicked his tail off, man. I mean, the only questions with him now moving forward is that who he really is? Can he do that for the rest of the season? When we need him most, when the games are still close enough, when we have a lead, can he make kicks with the lead? You know what I'm saying? Things like that. But Matt Gay finally making kicks is the only reason that game was ever even in real reach, honestly. So shouts out to him. I'm not going to take back all of the doubt that I casted over him the past few weeks, because he deserved it at the time. But at the same time, when he's hooping, I'm going to salute him for hooping. When somebody's bad, I'm going to call him out for it. But when they are hooping, I'm going to salute them for it. I mean, going 4-4 on kicks definitely deserves a salute to Matt Gay, man. Never thought I'd say it, but he was one of the best players on our team in that game, bro, to be honest, especially since his kicks came from 43, then 52, then 41, then 42. Nothing in the 30s. Meanwhile, he missed a 37-yarder against the Raiders that we didn't necessarily need, and he made every kick that we needed against the Falcons, bro. And shouts out to Seawall Sports. She said, well, I did say Matt Gay needed to make all of his kicks today to win this game. At least that happened. We just didn't win. But I thought that was interesting to bring up. And dog, bro, this team is so annoying because against the Giants, the offense was off, but the defense dominated. Then against the Packers, the defense was bad, but the offense was way worse than it was the week before. Then against the Raiders, Matt Gay is inconsistent. The defense allows more than they should have, but the offense was explosive even though they kept shooting themselves in the foot, making mistakes with penalties, fumbles, all kinds of stuff like that. But at least the return game was elite that game. Then this Falcons game, the defense was the worst it's been all season, mind you, against a team that couldn't score nor cross even the 30-yard line against the terrible Carolina Panthers just last week. We're not talking about last season Carolina Panthers, just last week. 27 points should be good enough to beat the Falcons, right? I just want us to be a complete team, man. That's my main point. Like, why does it have to be either or with this team so far this season? It's either the offense or the defense or the special teams, honestly. And we may get two of them to perform well in the game, but we haven't put together a single game yet all season, 4 weeks in, where all three phases have been on point. And I'm telling y'all right now, we're going to need all three against the Los Angeles Chargers next week. That's why I'm bringing it up. Also, the Falcons were the only team in the NFC South to win a game yesterday. We need to be ashamed of that in itself, bro. My Falcons fans friends are celebrating and going crazy. I'm sick of it already. They hit me up. I was still in the stadium. I was already getting calls and texts. It's not going to be good when I have to see a few of them probably tomorrow or later on in the day. Not looking forward to it at all. And also, shouts out to George Carmen. He brought up a great point that Green Bay and Atlanta now have the head-to-head tiebreakers against Washington. So that could be significant in the wild card race later on down this season if the Green Bay Packers and Falcons, they don't win their divisions but their wild card teams. That could potentially be ugly for us. But hey, man, you go out there and handle your business and do what you're supposed to do and win all of the games you're supposed to win and win some that maybe people don't expect you to win, and you just firmly earn that wild card spot or maybe even win the division, then that's something we don't have to worry about. But hey, we keep playing like this, that could potentially be something that we have to worry about later on down the line. Now let's start with offense. First of all, Deebo Samuel is our best player on the entire offense this season, easily, and maybe even by far, sadly. And there were all sorts of doubts surrounding him entering this season, and not only just from like the national media and other teams, fan bases and stuff like that, even a lot of our own fan base was doubting him coming into this season. And he is balling. He's hooping. Those deep threats, I mean, that we were seeing those type of things all off season. Apparently, that was not false hope. He's a real deep threat option down the field. I mean, he really is a complete weapon. Special teams returning has been huge for us. And I noticed against the Falcons, I don't think he was ever back there for a return. I think I was saying Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane a lot that game. I'm not sure if it was every single time, though. But special teams returning, elite, like literally one of the best returners in the NFL on a per return basis so far this season. Then also behind the line of scrimmage as a runner, short routes, intermediate routes over the middle of the field against the sideline, and even deep threat ability as well, man. So imagine what this offense is going to look like once we finally get our great players from last year, things that we considered automatics, things that we didn't even have to worry about last year. Once those things that haven't worked yet this year get right, it's going to be insane. Like, imagine a healthy Jaden and on-point Jaden. Imagine a healthy and on-point Terry McLaurin. Imagine this O-line with Samuel Cosmi back and healthy. And imagine if Cliff Kingsbury learns to run the ball with Bill more. We definitely got to talk about that very soon. And also, another positive note from this offense, Luke McCaffrey is starting to emerge for real, y'all. I mean, his first career touchdown last week against the Raiders was a little Mickey, you know what I'm saying? It came through garbage time. It was kind of like, you know, how proud can we really be? I mean, of course, for him, I'm so happy that he got his first career touchdown. He deserved to celebrate all he wanted to. I was so happy that he did not just go down to waste the clock. Go get your first career touchdown. But like this one against the Falcons was a real touchdown that he earned. He got open. Shouts out to the pass protection on that play to give Marcus Mariota even the time to scan the field that long and stuff like that. Good job scanning the field by Mariota. Good throw. But also shouts out to Luke McCaffrey, bro. And Disco brings up a good point. Luke McCaffrey practiced every day during training camp. Luke McCaffrey played in every preseason game. Luke McCaffrey returns kicks and runs down on teams, and Luke McCaffrey is emerging. I agree. I don't think any of that is a coincidence. He's starting to fully develop as a player. He's starting to really grow into somebody that matters on offense on a consistent basis. He's starting to even impact special teams as well as a returner. And I feel like him being there the entire offseason and playing in the preseason probably has a lot to do with that. And I feel like a lot of our older guys, or, you know, one guy specifically that sat out the offseason, I feel like, you know what I'm saying, That lack of preseason, that lack of training camp and stuff like that is why they're off to a slow start. Am I worried about them long term? No. But I feel like we probably should have expected early on for a lot of those guys that didn't practice, didn't play in the preseason to kind of get off to somewhat of a slow start. And I'm a little bit surprised by how Luke McCaffrey's emerging. But again, just based off of the fact that he was here all offseason, played in preseason games, maybe we shouldn't be. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not using injuries as an excuse because the Falcons had their fair share as well. Like even my Westlake alum, AJ Terrell, shouts out my dog, he was out that game. This game against the Falcons. And even though Jaden does not play on defense, you know what I'm saying, which we allowed them to score all of those points, Jaden does give us a much better chance to win a shootout, I can tell you that, by at least maximizing every drive and not throwing an interception, like how Marcus Mariota did, where that was the right play call, that was the right read, he just threw the ball just too far inside. You know, it was just that simple. So I think Jaden does make enough of a difference. But even then, Mariota led us to 27 points, which should have been enough to beat those Falcons, this 2025 team Falcons. But again, my main point is maybe Terry and AJ Terrell cancel each other out, but not having Jaden was huge. Imagine if the Falcons don't have Penix. We probably win that game. And even then, Penix isn't Jaden, so I don't even feel like that's a full-blown even cancel out there as well. So that still wouldn't be even in my opinion, but still, no excuses. Our defense was just bad. And yeah, we have injuries on defense as well, but Bobby Wagner in coverage and all of our starting corners getting beat all game didn't have much to do with the injuries that we suffered on the defensive side of the ball either. Again, no excuses, but it still would have been nice to see how that game would have went differently if we had a top 5 quarterback in the NFL on our side. But even though we scored 27 points, honestly, we should have scored more. You know what I'm saying? I know you see 27 points and the defense allowing 34. You kind of want to be like, well, offense, you did your thing. It's really the defense's fault solely. No, you could argue that it's mostly the defense's fault, but you should have scored more than 27 points. Here's why. Do y'all realize that we somehow scored 27 points going 1 of 8 on third downs, y'all? 1 of 8? And that's where I feel like Jaden Daniels could make the biggest impact, the biggest difference from Marcus Mariota possible. Right there, his elite ability to convert third downs or turn second and longs to third and shorts or second and longs into first downs. Jaden Daniels, if there's like one thing that he is way better at than Marcus Mariota, they have a lot of things that they're comparable, and Jaden Daniels is maybe like slightly better at best or something like that. But the one thing that Jaden Daniels has a huge advantage of over Marcus Mariota is the ability to convert third downs or to keep the chains moving in general, because again, second and longs, Jaden Daniels is turning that into third and shorts or first downs. This team, once we got in the second and long, it was over with. Again, we went 1 of 8 on third downs today. I feel like Marcus Mariota was a lot of that, bro. So honestly, again, this is the type of game where we honestly should have scored even more. We should have scored 40 plus. And so even though Marcus Mariota wasn't great though, hey, shouts out to him. At least his 100th career touchdown was a beautiful touchdown pass to Deebo Samuel. That's like the best way to do it. You know what I'm saying? 100th career touchdown. And then it's that beautiful throw to Deebo Samuel. So that's going to be replayed a lot, especially once he retires, you know, maybe years on down the line. So shouts out to him for that one at least. But also, man, the run game, bro. What are we doing, Cliff? Why are you not running the ball more, man? Shouts out to Grant Paulson. He said the Commanders' run game has a chance to be really good. I want to see more JCM, a.k.a. Bill. He's more explosive than anybody we've had here in a while, like in years. He breaks a lot of tackles as well. Side note from Washington PR. They recorded 45-plus yard runs in consecutive games for the first time since November of 1954, y'all. Our run game is so explosive. We've done something already this season that we haven't done since 1954, and yet Cliff Kingsbury refuses to continue to run the ball. I don't get it. Hey, Cliff, listen to me. Listen to me real well. Run the ball, dog. Both games where we didn't run the ball, we were running the ball very well, but just didn't do it enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, every time we ran the ball, very efficient, big yards, good gains. And then we just stopped doing it. The Falcons never stopped us from running the ball. Even the Packers never necessarily stopped us from running the ball. We stopped ourselves running the ball. Maybe you could argue the defense stopped us from running the ball because we had to keep up and we had to throw the ball to keep up with how bad our defense was playing. But Cliff Kingsbury, you stopped our run. The Falcons never did in this game. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we lost both games as well, where we don't run the ball as much as we should have. And I feel like, hey, 1 of 8 on third downs, maybe that could have been prevented by running the ball more. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the Commanders had 2 running backs that averaged 7.6 yards per carry. I want you to know that that's even better than what the Falcons had running the ball on a per carry basis. And yet they only got 14 carries total, bro. That's inexcusable, Cliff Kingsbury. Shouts out to you. You did some things well in that game, but this lack of running the ball, hey, man, you gonna have to see me. Don't make me, I'm gonna make you step into my office. You keep playing, bro. I'm gonna make you step into my office. Stop playing. And before we move on to the defensive side of the ball, I have other categories as well. I want to talk about the defensive side of the ball. I want to dive into, are there any potential solutions for this defense as well, after we talk about some of the negatives and give you the stats for those, and even some film breakdowns on what went wrong for the defense against the Falcons. I want to also dive into some potential solutions, some changes we can make. Then I also want to dive into, should we be worried about the near future? And I also want to dive into whether we should be worried about the long-term future, or, you know, the overall outlook of the season. But before we get there, man, even after a loss like that, man, I'm still excited about Commanders football this season, man. And you now, with Sleeper, have a chance to 1,000 times your cash on daily fantasy football, bro. Again, Washington football, I promise you, is going to bounce back. Once we get back, Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, once they're able to join in with Deebo Samuel, who's our best offensive player right now, I'm telling you, things are going to be on the up and up. And you can pick on stats for stars like these guys, like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and more for up to 1,000 times payout on Sleeper. If you're right on your picks, you can win big money on, and you can use promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, like you see on the screen. You'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. You can even just click the link at the description, the top of the description of this video, and every video on live stream I'm doing all season. Just in case if y'all don't even know about combo play, you can even flex it. You can miss picks with your Sleeper entry and still cash in with the combo plays. And it's not just the Commanders in the NFL. You can even play daily fantasy for the NBA. Again, we have preseason for the NBA coming up October 2nd. So basketball is about to be back in full effect. MLB, NHL, college football, don't want to talk about it. College basketball and the WNBA all on Sleeper, bro. And you know me, man. I like to take a look at some picks that we can dive into directly through the app. And you know me, man. I love to get into these NFL popular duos. And bro, you know I'm always looking for the highest risk. You know what I'm saying? The biggest bang for your buck. It's the highest risk, but it's potentially the highest reward as well. And you know, we're typically in the 3-point somethings. I'm seeing a 4.61 right here. Now, granted, it's very risky. This is assuming that Courtland Sutton gets a touchdown versus the Bengals. Horrible secondary, quite possible. This is also assuming that Jamar Chase can get a touchdown even without Joe Burrow as his quarterback against a really tough Denver Broncos defense. I still think he can do it. And now, even though this is very risky, again, it's a big bang for your buck. All you need is for Courtland Sutton and Jamar Chase to get a touchdown each. Anyway, even if it's somehow a rushing touchdown for whatever reason, you're good to go. So you could put 5 and end up winning 23. You could put 10 and win 46. You could put 20 and win 92. Or you could put 100 and win 461. And all you need is for 2 things to go right for you, bro. Or if you're even feeling uncomfortable, if you want to change it to where, you know, Courtland Sutton less, you don't want him to score a touchdown. You just bet that he doesn't. Now you're not going to end up winning as much money. You know, that 5 that used to be turning into 23 now turns into 17.85, but you can do that as well. It depends on how you want to do it. Again, I love going with the bigger risk, especially when I'm just doing the popular duos real quick. So, hey, man, 10 and the 46, I'm probably going to go ahead and place this in here very soon. So make sure you check out Sleeper. Again, use promo code SCORE to get 100% match up to $100 on your first deposit if you haven't already done that just yet. And now let's go ahead and get back into this video. Let's dive into this defense, man. Defense, bro. Defense. Come on, man. Let's talk about it. And I feel like this photo right here perfectly showcases how they played against the Falcons, bro. Like, what is this? Shouts out to Jay Daniels MVP for pointing this out. He said, does anyone see what's wrong with this photo? A lot is wrong with this photo. There's several people open, but most notably the guy that's right there at the left 40-yard line right there. I mean, just wow. And wide open, that wide open at the first down marker nonetheless. 3rd and 2. And then shouts out to Marshall. He brings up a good point. Jaden nor Mariota have thrown into a window like this on a third down this entire month. So you can blame Cliff Kingsbury offensively for that. You can blame our receivers not getting open enough for that as well. You can also blame Joe Whitt Jr. and this defense for allowing somebody to be this open, to where you can even compare it to the fact that Jaden nor Mariota have ever thrown to a receiver this open all season. And it's actually really crazy because we've had miscommunication issues really all season. Remember the Raiders' first play from scrimmage on offense when we played them, a 45-yard throw. I don't know why we can't get those. Why it feels like every yard that we get, we have to earn. We have to scratch and claw for every even throw that we make. It's always a defender right there. It just takes a really good throw and a really good catch to make it happen. I don't know, but I don't like it. And hey, good news is, though, we finally got a turnover, y'all. Yay! If you would have told me that we finally get a turnover this season and it were against the Falcons, I would have assumed that we won the game. This defense can't get turnovers to save their lives. And the game that they finally get one, it's the worst game they have all season. What's with that? Is that a jinx? Maybe they don't force turnovers on purpose with the superstition that forcing turnovers makes them play worse or something. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm just diving and digging for whatever reasons anything is happening right now. And then shouts out to Rio Robinson. He said having a defensive-minded coach and being bad at defense is wild. I completely agree. Also, Rick Dahl Walker worded it perfectly, bro. He said, we got too many spectators on defense. And that picture I showed y'all earlier, I feel like perfectly shows that when we just have a lot, it does feel like we have a lot of guys just in the flow rather than any playmakers. Everybody's just watching and waiting for somebody else to make a play rather than going and making the play themselves. I feel like we're just not playing with confidence. I feel like there's a lot to do with it. And also, of course, speaking of having to do with it, not having Will Harris had me worried coming into this game about Kyle Pitts going, even before the game started. And y'all saw how well he covered Brock Bowers and prevented a Brock Bowers touchdown against the Raiders last week. So, with Will Harris arguably being probably our best tight end coverage player on the entire team, I was worried about not having him going into this game with him being on the IR and being out at least for the next 4 weeks. But Will Harris being out does not explain everything else that went wrong for this defense and all of the other Falcons players that went crazy. And then we also potentially have a season-ending injury for a young, promising edge rusher and a starter even in Javonte Jean-Baptiste after he was the one that had to replace Dietrich Wise, who we lost to a season-ending injury against the Packers. Apparently, Javonte Jean-Baptiste's arm was in a sling after the game. He'll undergo an MRI as the team fears that he has a torn pectoral. And shouts out to Josh Taylor. He brings up a great point. This is not good. I thought he's played well with Wise out. He even got a sack last week against the Raiders. He was the Commanders' highest graded defender today on Pro Football Focus's early grades. Wow, that's who you just lost to a potentially season-ending injury. But again, you never know because Jonathan Allen tore his pec and came back at the end of the season. But still, bro, not good news at all. Now they would need yet another depth guy to step up. Remember, Javonte Jean-Baptiste was supposed to be a backup. Dietrich Wise gets hurt for the season. He steps up as a second-year, seventh-round player. And again, I believe I got to go check the Pro Football Focus grades after the game. But apparently, he was our highest-graded defender in that game before he got hurt. So that really sucks. And what's really scary is that the cat's out the bag with our defense, man. The Packers figured it out and kept exposing it and take advantage of it. Then you had the Raiders who tried it but failed at exposing it as well. And even then, they got it a couple of times. Like that one time they ran that same exact play up the seam that the Packers did against us to get Tucker Kraft open. We just luckily, Jeremy Reeves recognized it right before the play started, made sure he told Noah Benogany, hey, go back. They're running this play. And then Noah Benogany barely got there to bat the ball down. Then a couple of plays later, the Raiders ran the same exact play, but just flipped it to the other side, and then it worked. It's just like this big weakness on our team. And then here comes the Falcons, who tried and succeeded. The Raiders tried and didn't succeed that often. They failed a couple of times. The Falcons succeeded almost every time they wanted it to work. And also, the really scary part is that this is a copycat league, and other teams will also notice these specific weaknesses that this defense has and continue to attack them. And now we have an angry Justin Herbert and an embarrassed Chargers team that is going to try to do the same exact thing. Will we make the right adjustments? We'll just have to see. Shouts out to Mitch Tisley. He pointed out the fact that the book is out on how to confuse this Commanders defense. 3 straight weeks, man motions across formations, inside a release for a slot guy for a wide open explosive. You got to get that cleaned up. Joe Whitt Jr., I'm looking at you for that one. But even though I'm not going to place all of the blame on Joe Whitt Jr., but still, Why was Dorrance Armstrong in coverage, Joe Whitt Jr.? How did we let Bobby Wagner get matched up on Bijan Robinson in coverage, Joe Whitt Jr.? That is scheme. There were a lot of individual issues and inconsistencies from the players as well, but there was also a lot of schematical mistakes from Joe Whitt Jr.'s part, but schematical issues aren't enough for stats like these. First of all, 435 total yards is insane in itself, bro. But also 6.9 yards a play is wild. And then the defense also allowed 100-yard receiving games to 2 different receivers in the same game. And it's not like they at least stopped the run while allowing the Falcons to do whatever they wanted through the air, because they also allowed 128 rushing yards to Falcons running backs alone. And even worse than that, Michael Penix averaged 11.14 yards per drop back against the Commanders, which as of right now is the 3rd most by a quarterback in a game this season, bro. That is bad. Also, shouts out to Josh Taylor for pointing out the fact that the Falcons were the worst deep passing team in the league before we just played them. They had 8 plays of 15 plus yards and averaged 15.7 yards per catch. Again, the worst explosion offense in the NFL just went out there and exploded against us. I mean, shouts out to Jordan Schultz for pointing out the fact that the Falcons offense, Michael Penix, 20 of 26, 313 yards, 2 touchdowns. Bijan Robinson, 181 yards and a touchdown of total offense. Drake London, 8 receptions, 110 yards, 1 touchdown. Kyle Pitts, 5 receptions, 70 yards, 1 touchdown. This is literally the dream offense that the Falcons envisioned coming into this season, and what better time to finally get it going than against the Commanders, apparently. Also, shouts out to Jay Daniels MVP for pointing out the fact that Michael Penix Jr. and Bijan Robinson had their best career days today versus the Commanders defense. Because Michael Penix had a career high completion percentage of that 20 of 26. He had a career high in passing yards with that 313. And then Bijan Robinson had 181 total yards, which is a career high for him as well. So Michael Penix and Bijan Robinson had the best games of their NFL careers against the Commanders in this game. And don't forget that these are the same Falcons that just lost 30-0 to the sorry Carolina Panthers. So are we worse than the Panthers? But we're going to dive into that later on in this video with how weird the NFL is right now, where it's like a rock, paper, scissors league right now, where it just doesn't make sense. We can't just assume we're worse than the Panthers because the Panthers beat the Falcons and the Falcons beat us. It's crazy. But going back to stats, bro. Marshon Lattimore, 3 receptions on 6 targets, 58 yards, and 2 penalties, bro. Mike Sainristil, 4 receptions on 5 targets, 49 yards, but an interception. And Trey Amos, 3 receptions on 4 targets for 46 yards and a penalty. No corner on this team was good at all against the Falcons, bro. And Marshon Lattimore specifically through 4 games. 20 targets, 11 catches allowed, 173 yards, 9 first downs allowed, 6 penalties, and 3 15-plus yard completions, bro. Man, it's gotten so bad that people are out here changing their names on Twitter to stuff like, shouts out to Air Raid Concepts. He's changed his name to Marshawn Let Him Score. I feel like that's hilarious. I know a lot of y'all may have never heard that before, and now y'all are probably going to keep using it after that until he finally has a good game again. Or really, it's been like a back and forth. He had a good game against a solid game against the Giants, bad game against the Packers, solid game against the Raiders with a couple of mistakes, and then a bad game against the Falcons just now. So this guy's just a back and forth. Maybe once he finally strings together 2 straight good games, or finally has a good game against a high-powered offense, then maybe we won't call him that. But I feel like Marshawn Let Him Score is hilarious and also pretty fitting right now. But again, we can't only blame Joe Whitt Jr. You could argue that Whitt wasn't good. I agree with that. But you also cannot say that he didn't at least try. He threw everything but the kitchen sink at the Falcons. So again, it's not from a lack of trying. It's not from a lack of experimentation. It's not from a lack of brainstorming and getting creative at all. Shouts out to Mark Bullock. He said he just finished watching back all of the frustrating coverage plays from the Commanders defense. No all 22 yet, so obviously could be wrong. But here's my initial quick notes on each one of them. And as you're seeing on the screen right now, I'm just going to go ahead and let it scroll through if you want to read them, but this is like an insanely in-depth breakdown of what he saw. And then if you're reading it, we're just going to go ahead and keep on pushing. But he said his takeaways were from these notes that he took. Whitt tried a lot of things: man, zone, match, blitz, no blitz, disguise coverages, etc. Very little worked. When he played man, coverage couldn't hold up. When he played zone, the rush couldn't get home with just 4. Literally, there was just no answer for this Falcons offense with the personnel I guess we have on defense. And Mark Bullock also said, this is why I'm not screaming fire Joe Whitt like a lot of you. Samuelson and Lattimore have really struggled this year. Hard to do much of anything versus the past when your 2 starting cornerbacks are struggling that much. At least 2 of your 3, and then Trey Amos finally had his first arguably bad game of the season. I mean, like, it can't be Joe Whitt Jr. and Marshawn Lattimore is being as bad as St. Juice. Like, it can't be fire Joe Whitt and Lattimore is as bad or worse than Benjamin St. Juice. They can both be bad. I agree with that. But that bad for both this early in the season, I'm not willing to go there yet. This is a very long season, and I can admit that both sides of coaching and the players have been bad. Again, I agree with that. But the players being bad enough to bench and at the same time the coach being bad enough to fire, I feel like that's pretty crazy. Because if the scheme is that bad, then the players deserve more patience and maybe even a different coach. Or if the players have been that bad, then the coach and the scheme deserves more patience. So again, I feel like it's a little bit of both, but not a lot of both, like a lot of people are saying, where it's fire Joe Whitt Jr. and bench or cut trade Lattimore or whatever's going on. Shouts out to Linnell Willingham. He said, rewatching the TV copy, just got through the first defensive series. Defensive line missed a fair share of tackles as well in the game. Began on the very first defensive possession. He also said clear breakdown of communication between Amos and Revo on the Pitt's 26-yard completion on 3rd down. Maybe things just need to be simplified, but that doesn't seem like coaching is more so an execution issue. I agree with both. I do feel like maybe Joe Whitt Jr., maybe you do need to simplify it. Maybe this defense is too complicated for the secondary, especially now that you lost Will Harris, who was with you the entire offseason and knew the playbook. Now you're trying to substitute Darnell Savage into the lineup. Maybe you should simplify it, at least for him, if not for everybody, because they haven't been responding very well. Also, shouts out to Mark Tyler, because he pointed out again, he agreed. There are way too many missed tackles in the backfield, specifically. Not only just missed tackles throughout the entire game, but in the backfield specifically. He said, I can't remember the last time I've seen this many. That is execution. Scheme was bad, but execution was bad as well. But shouts out to the few guys that did show some pride in that game. And even though he made his own fair share of mistakes, man, shouts out to Jeremy Reeves for having the heart and the pride to chase down Bijan Robinson, who reached a top speed of 21.85 miles per hour on a 69-yard reception against Bobby Wagner. That was the fastest speed that he's ever reached in his entire NFL career. But Jeremy Reeves hawked them down. He had to reach 22.62 miles per hour to make that tackle and save the touchdown. That was the 6th fastest speed on a tackle since the next-gen era of 2017 and beyond. That is insane. I didn't even know Jeremy Reeves was fast, let alone that fast, man. Shouts out to the heart. And dog, I love Bobby Wagner. Nearing around the line of scrimmage, but having him out in space at 35 years old is crazy. Joe Whitt Jr., that's on you. You better start giving these younger guys with way faster and younger legs as many opportunities as possible, especially early in the season. But when we get to the playoffs and we still don't know whether or not guys like Jordan McGee, Tyler Owens, Ale Cajo, and Kay Madrano could even play well enough in space to take that responsibility away from Bobby Wagner as soon as possible. Now is the time to give these guys this opportunity early in the season. Don't wait till at the last second where we're too nervous to even try to throw those guys out there. I mean, Bobby Wagner still has his good moments, but offenses are doing a great job of getting him in situations where he's bad, which is usually out in space, especially in coverage. We got to figure that out. And then shouts out to Mark Tyler. He said this Washington team is so old, bro, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. When we play an athletic young team with speed at any and all skill positions, it really shows. Packers and Falcons. It sticks out on offense, too, with some of these old backup wide receivers who can't get open. All completely I agree with. Shouts out to Bleeding Burgundy and Gold, too. He brings up a great point. Dan Quinn glazed Jordan McGee all summer just to never play him. Just go ahead. I mean, what do we have to lose now? You just allowed the team that couldn't even cross the 30-yard line and score any points against the Panthers to go out there and score 34 points easily against you. What else could it hurt to throw Jordan McGee out there more often? Even if he makes mistakes in the beginning, the sooner you throw him out there, the more often you throw him out there, the quicker he'll learn from those mistakes and be what we need on defense right now, which is a guy that's a linebacker that can cover tight ends and running backs. We don't have a guy like that right now, especially with Will Harris hurt. And then shouts out to Nicky Javala. She pointed out the fact that Pro Football Focus's early accounting of the game has the Commanders defense at 12 missed tackles today. And again, is that Joe Whitt Jr.'s fault as well? Again, I feel like the scheme was bad along with the players' execution, but I feel like a lot of this also was just, man, I feel like if anything, if we had to blame one side more than the other, I feel like it was player execution more than scheme. But yes, scheme deserves a lot of the blame as well. Now, do we have any potential solutions for the defense? Well, with how poorly Lattimore has played on the outside so far this season, and with Mike Sanford still suddenly regressing after moving back inside to the slot where I thought, if anything, he would actually be better, should we consider moving Sanford still back outside where he thrived all last year? Mark Bullock brings up a great point, and I agree. He said that could be an option, but Sanford still hasn't been great either. He's quietly had a really rough start to the year, and moving back outside might help. But he's also been playing outside and base defense at times and has gotten beat a few times there this season as well. So that wouldn't necessarily be like an automatic fix to the situation. So benching Lattimore is pretty much out of the discussion right there. Everybody just has to be better. Lattimore has to be better. Sanford still has to be better in the slot, all of that. And shouts out to my boy Ed Oliver. He said, wonder if Dan Quinn considers making Joe Whitt Jr. coach from the sidelines next week like the Falcons made their offensive coordinator. The Falcons offensive coordinator was up in the booth in that Panthers game. Awful. Then they made him come down to the sideline, 34 points against, I feel like, a better defense than the Panthers. Maybe Joe Whitt Jr. needs to be on the sideline instead of up there in the booth. Ed brings up a great point right there. Also, Quan Martin speaking to the media after the game, he said, quote, man, it's week 4. We lost 3 games in a row last year. We're not worried. We'll move on, watch tape, get better, and learn from it, unquote. And I agree. I feel like there are some problems that I am worried about to where it's like, maybe you got to make a trade to fix something. But I just don't think it's going to be this bad all year, bro. I still think we're going to the playoffs. Again, we're going to dive into all of that very soon. We're going to start to look at the future of the season. Again, we're going to start with the near future. Then we're going to look long-term, like playoffs and even beyond that as well a little bit before we get up out of here. But before we do, we got to shout out my boys at BRUNT, man. BRUNT Workwear, dog. Man, shouts out to BRUNT Workwear, man. They rocking with the kid, and y'all should rock with them, man. That's love for love right there. And even beyond that, these shoes are tough, bro. Extra comfortable, very customizable as well. We're going to dive into that soon. Like, for example, for these Marin boots that I have right here, and even just beyond the many designs that they have available, and of course, you can pick like shoe size and gender and stuff like that, but you can also choose 1, boot height, you know what I'm saying? 2, the type of toe, soft toe, the BRUNT toe, or even the comp toe. 3, you can even, do you want them waterproof or not? You know what I'm saying? You have that option. 4, how do you want the construction? Cemented, welted, or how about USA welted if that's how you're feeling? How about 5 as well? What about the heel? You want wedge or 90 degree? You know what I'm saying? And how about even 6? You know, for all my flat foot people out there or anybody that's wide foot as well, you can even choose your boot width. You know, you have 2 options, regular or wide, bro. And these are no doubt the most comfortable boots, like dead serious, completely honest, the most comfortable boots I've ever worn. And they felt comfortable like right out of the box too, like immediately. No long, painful break-in like all of the other brands and things like that. Usually when you're getting boots, you have to sacrifice comfort for durability. But BRUNT Workwear makes the boots that give you the best of both worlds, honestly. But they're not just comfortable, again, they're built to perform. If you're looking for the perfect boot, BRUNT Workwear has you covered. It's like asking the chef for your favorite meal and giving them the exact ingredients that you want for it with the way that you can customize, like I explained just earlier, man. And when you scroll down after customizing your perfect boot, if you want even more information, there's loads and loads of background information and details for every single shoe and product on the entire website, man. It's like the secret Krabby Patty formula at the bottom. It's insane. And even the guarantees are elite. Like, they have free shipping and exchanges. You can even try risk-free on the job and stuff like that. And we shouldn't even get to that point because my Marin boots had over 7,000 reviews before I even got them. So even before then, I was confident going in with the fact that I thought they were already going to be good, even with the guarantees that they have if you don't like them. And as a matter of fact, I'm about to get another pair soon. And I'm thinking, you know, I'll probably need like a black pair. You know how I'm always wearing all black. I think a black pair will look real nice on me and stuff like that, you know, to kind of complete some of the fits that I got in mind. I'm envisioning some right now. And you can tell that BRUNT was tired of the workwear brands out there cutting corners and things like that. I mean, you work too hard to be stuck in uncomfortable boots that don't hold up. So they built something better. Boots that are insanely comfortable and built for any job site, man. And For a limited time, our listeners get $10 off at BRUNT Workwear when you use code SCORE at checkout. Just head to bruntworkwear.com, like you can see on the screen, and use code SCORE like you also see on the screen. That's SCORE, and you're good to go. And after you order, they'll ask you where you heard about BRUNT. Go ahead and do your boy a favor and tell him that StreetScores sent you. Appreciate that, man. Shouts out to BRUNT Workwear for real, man. These boots, hey, man, they like that for real. Now let's get back to the video. Now we're back. Now let's dive into whether we should be worried about the near future before we dive into the long-term future. And as you can see on the screen right now with this picture, these are your opponents. The Chargers, who are actually now 3-1 after losing to the Giants. Again, we're going to dive into all of the chaos that's going on in the NFL right now really soon when we dive into the long-term situation of the Commanders. Then you have the Bears, who are now 2-2 after barely beating a sorry team. We're going to talk about them later. And now, mind you, that Bears game is the only one we have at home. The Chargers game is away. The Cowboys game, who are now 1-1 after tying with the Packers team that made us look like we didn't even belong in the NFL. So now you got to be a little bit worried about that. That's no way game as well. And the Chiefs, who are now 2-2 after finally looking dominant again for the first time this season after what they just did to the Ravens. They're 2-2. We have to play them on the road as well. But, I mean, we'll see what happens by the time we get there. But I do want to point out the fact that we only have one of those next 4 games at home. And right now, we look like a completely different team from home than on the road. We are 2-0 undefeated at home. We are 0-2 winless on the road. Literally 2 different teams. I really want to point out the fact that, at this rate, we'll finish this season 8-1. Because remember, the Dolphins game is in Spain, so I'm going to count that as a neutral game, which means we finish the game in neutral. With the way that we're going right now, with the trajectory that this team is on, we look dominant at home, too. And then completely pathetic on the road. That's what's so crazy. There's like no middle. You know what I'm saying? We either look like we're Super Bowl contenders, or at least at worst, a strong playoff contender at home. And then when we go on the road, we look like, yo, who we taking in the first round of this 2026 NFL draft? Like, it's crazy, bro. And hey, man, now that I'm thinking about it, even though we moved on from the offense, run the ball with Bill more, bro. Cliff, not only run the ball more, run the ball with Bill. My cousin, while we were watching the game, pointed out the fact that Bill looks even faster in person than he already looks from the game. So if you haven't been to a Commanders game in person yet this season, trust me, Bill is a different animal. We haven't had a guy like this on this team in so many years. I don't even remember when we had a guy this explosive that can make guys miss no matter the situation. He has so many runs against the Falcons where even if it were Jeremy McNichols and Chris Rodriguez, who I like, it's a negative run. With Bill, it's a positive 5-8 yard run. Somehow, I don't know how he does it. It's insane. Run him more. But also, now moving on from the near future to the far future, because I have a lot of stuff to break down here. The overall season, playoff hopes. But I also want to talk about some silver linings, and also, do we need to make some season prediction adjustments after starting the season 2-2? Well, first of all, take a look at this on the screen right now. These are the 2 Adam Peters draft classes. Now, granted, one of them is a rookie class is only 4 games in. And going back to Sam Still's regression, I don't think we need to start throwing tomatoes at these Adam Peters draft classes already, bro. I really don't think so. I don't feel like it's anywhere near as bad as we think. And Mark Bullock, I feel like he worded it perfectly. He said, let's not start doing this now. Sarah Still was legitimately good last year. Coleman was a decent starter last year. Both regressed this year, but Newton Sennett and Luke McCaffrey all just played their best 2 games and took steps forward. And that's a great point. Johnny Newton, Ben Simmons, and Luke McCaffrey, even though Ben Simmons had a couple of penalties or whatever, he made a couple of mistakes against the Falcons. But those guys that didn't show up at all for us last year are finally starting to show up. That's what I'm saying. It kind of feels like we let go of one hole in the sinking ship to cover up another one. The guys that were great for us last year have been struggling this year, and the guys that were struggling last year are playing well for us this year and improving and improving and improving. Can we finally just get everybody to be on the same page at the same time? Because if we could, then we could be one of the best teams in the NFL. Like Deebo Samuel hooping. There was a lot of doubt for him coming into the season. Josh Connolly was struggling early. Now he's starting to hoop. Last year, Luke McCaffrey, Johnny Newton, and Ben Simmons weren't giving us anything. Now they're hooping. Jaden Daniels, well, even while he was healthy, was a little sloppy. Terry McLaurin hasn't really broken out outside of that Raiders game. You know, once we get everybody on the same page, if we get last year's stars and combine them with the guys that are finally improving and developing this year and turning into stars, we're going to be an unstoppable team, bro. And I agree with Mark Bullock. Young players go through ups and downs. It takes time. It is very early into the season. Shouts out to Rush Manual and Mark Bullock going back and forth on this one as well, all agreeing with each other. So many fans have uncanny inability to accept the bad loss as a bad loss without instantly assuming the whole sky is falling. Who knows what direction the season takes, but if the Commanders coaches and players gave up as easily as many fans do, 12-5 last year doesn't happen. We don't make it to the NFC Championship game. I agree. Mark Bullock said precisely. I do understand the nature of the NFL is that each game matters a ton, but we as fans and media and etc. also tend to overreact to each game. Ultimately, they're 2-4 after 4 games, with Jaden Daniels missing 2 of them. Definitely need to improve, but they're capable of doing so. We have plenty of time. Let's just get the ball on the road, man. You know what I'm saying? And also, what's going on in the NFL right now, bro? Football is broken, bro. We escaped 2-2, while some teams that you could argue are better than us have worse records. You could argue some teams that are worse than us have better records. Nothing makes sense right now. First of all, we have to address the craziest part of the weekend. The arguably best team in the NFL, the team that whooped up on the Kansas City Chiefs, who just whooped up on the Ravens, mostly healthy Chargers as well, just lost to a Giants team that not only are worse than the Chargers, but had loads of injuries, including Malik Neighbors, who may be out for season, and my fantasy teams are cooked because of that, first of all. And also, a team that started its rookie quarterback for the first time. And even beyond that, the Patriots. They lost to the Raiders week 1, and remember, we just whooped up on the Raiders last week, and that same Patriots team that lost to the Raiders, who we beat, just obliterated the Panthers. The very same Panthers that 30-0'd the same Falcons that just did us bad yesterday. I mean, is the NFL in a rock, paper, scissors situation right now? Or how about just the Twilight Zone? Like stuff like the Bills almost losing to the Saints, and so the Saints literally gave the game away so that they could stay on track trying to get that first overall pick. You could tell at a certain point they just gave that game away. Or how about, are the Jaguars actually a good team? And then even going back to the Raiders, not only did they almost beat the Bears and should have only lost by 1 point, and honestly, they made a couple of mistakes in there that they should have won that game. Aston Genty couldn't run against us to save his life, and he had an insane day against the Bears defense with 21 carries for 138 yards and a touchdown. Even Raheem Mostert went for 62 yards off of just 4 carries, y'all, against that Bears defense. Or how about the Packers that just tied with the Cowboys, who should have lost to the Giants, who we obliterated and dominated. The Cowboys with a 60-something yard field goal, that was the only reason they were even able to take the game into overtime to beat the Giants. They should have lost to the Giants, the same Giants team that we obliterated, yet the Cowboys are tying with the Packers, who obliterated us. I mean, maybe them catching us Thursday night, as in the Packers, on the road, really was like a bigger advantage in the Packers' favor than we thought. But at this point, who knows? And also, don't forget that the Packers also lost to the Browns last week. The very same Browns that are 1-3, and their only win is against the Green Bay Packers, bro. What is the NFL right now? Remember, we're just 4 weeks into the season, though, and the NFL is weird right now. Who's actually better than who? Who knows? Honestly, this week, let alone this season with all of these blocked field goals, this is literally the Twilight Zone right now. I don't remember ever this many blocked field goals this early into a season, bro. And I personally would not read too much into how this season has started. Because first of all, if you would have told me back in August that we'd not have Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin for multiple games in September, and we escaped 2-2, I would have been like, hey, I'll take it. It feels bad as you're watching it happens, but without Jaden and Terry, and you go 2-2, I mean, I'm the biggest Falcons hater y'all know, so I'm sick to my stomach, because even if we win the Super Bowl this season, the majority of my friend group is going to hold this loss over my head until we play and beat the Falcons again specifically. But y'all out there that don't have anything personal against the Falcons, y'all should be good. The sky's not falling. These next 4 games are a little ugly, but all of them are winnable if we play to our highest capabilities. If we play how we're supposed to play, you can literally finish 6-2 after this next 4-game slate, but we'll see, because again, the Chargers look exposable. Maybe the Giants show something on tape that we could take advantage of. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm not too optimistic about that upcoming Chiefs game 4 weeks down the line, but you just never know. They just have weird games where they've been off, and they've only had 1 game where they were really good, which were against the Ravens just now. Remember, the Chargers just lost to the Giants. We whooped the Giants, and then the Chargers beat the Chiefs. So how afraid should we actually be of the Chiefs? You know what I'm saying? Every game is winnable. And also back to my main point, this season is drunk. Through the first 4 weeks, it's a no man's land. Anybody can beat anybody. So let's see what happens when the dust settles and the real NFL football starts to take place at a certain point in the season. Once the season really gets rolling, who's going to be standing on top once everybody's identities are finally in place? Which teams are going to rise above the wave of chaos? I mean, just look around the records around the NFL just by itself, bro. I mean, we're 2-2. We have the same record as the Chiefs, the Vikings, the Patriots, the Falcons who just beat us, the Cardinals, and the Bears. We have better records than the Dallas Cowboys, who just tied with the Green Bay Packers, who again whooped us. We have a better record than the Denver Broncos, then the Raiders, then the Texans, then the Baltimore Ravens. Wait a minute. Then I think the Broncos just won, so maybe I need to refresh that. The Broncos did just win, right? Nah, why are they just 1-2? Oh, they play Monday night. So we'll see what happens Monday night. But right now, we have a better record than the Broncos. Better record, obviously, than the Raiders. The Texans just had a dominant game. They're feeling pretty optimistic moving forward, but they're still only 1-3. The Ravens are 1-3. Browns, who beat the Packers as their only win, 1-3. Carolina Panthers, who whooped the Falcons that whooped us, 1-3. The Giants just beat the Chargers, who we play next week, 1-3. Jets, Dolphins, Titans, and Saints all winless right now, bro. I'm telling you, this schedule, this season, capable and drunk. And even looking at above us to the teams that have better records than us right now. Back to my point about waiting until the dust settles. I mean, I just personally don't believe in what the Colts are doing right now with Daniel Jones. I just don't believe that's sustainable. It's not just them. I feel like by the end of the season, we'll be the better team and have a better record than even the 49ers, the Steelers, the Jaguars, and the Bengals. But I guess we'll have to see. And then going back to my point from way earlier about the Commanders looking like two completely different teams in different games. I mean, shouts out to Sir the Shooter. He said the Giants go toe-to-toe with the Chargers. The Cowboys going toe-to-toe with the Packers. I just need the Commanders to show some effort in every phase, get stops, and make tackles. We probably win a lot more games like that. And then shouts out to Josh Taylor. He wrote an article and he said the Commanders' road trip struggles. He said the Commanders look like a great team at home. They beat both the Giants and the Raiders in their 2 home games and have a 28-point differential at home. The road is where the struggles come in, especially on defense. Both losses have come on the road, and the defense is allowing an average of 420 yards in those 2 losses. And Quinn sees the slow starts on the road as a real problem. And this is something we really need to hamper down on. You can't keep going down early on these road games. He said, quote, "Our 2 road games, we started slowly. Our 2 home games, we haven't. And we're on the road again this week. We need to get that handled. So we got to make sure we can get that turned around and playing fast and aggressive like we'd like. We can hit the gas early. Didn't feel that going into preparation or anything like that, but the results are what they are. So we got to make sure, man, we can find our edge and make sure that weighs, different and feels different and feels aggressive at the start," unquote. Yes, please, Dan Quinn, can we please focus on that? Now I have other people's reviews before we get up out of here. First of all, shouts out to SeaWorld Sports. She says, shouts out to all the Commanders fans that traveled to Atlanta for the game. When the team did good things, it sounded like a home game in there. And I really want to emphasize the fact that, yes, it really did at times. I mean, we even at a certain point had a defense chant going for the Commanders at one point when the Falcons were on the field. I mean, we literally could have taken over that stadium if we just had any significant lead at any point in that game. I'm telling you, the stadium was food. Too bad the Commanders defense were food as well. Also, shouts out to Serge the Shooter. He said, shout out Debo and Matt Gay. All right, good night, everybody. That's all he had to say as a review. Those are the only players he's thanking. I'm not too mad at it. Shouts out to Jay Daniels MVP. He said there are 2 good positives that came out from this game. Matt Gay went 4-4, and Luke McCaffrey has shown that he can contribute on offense and special teams. Those are 2 good things, even though I say there are more than that. But hey, those are 2 definitely good ones right there. Burger Mander said, game takeaways. Joe Whitt is in over his head, and Dan Quinn needs to take over the calling for the defense. I mean, I can see that. He also said Cliff and his staff refused to give the ball to the hot hand, and I don't understand why. Bill and LMC were feasting and were barely featured. I completely agree with that. He also said, stop putting Bobby Wagner in coverage. I completely agree with that as well. Then shouts out to @Commanders Realm. You know he always has his really long breakdown of everything, his thoughts from the loss. He said, I think it's obvious to start with the defense, one of the worst performances I've ever seen. A team that scored 0 points last week and a quarterback that got benched goes 20 of 26 for over 300 yards. They couldn't tackle. They couldn't do anything. The Whitt discussions are going to ramp up. I agree. I don't think we should fire him, but it's definitely worth talking about. Also, they don't have any playmakers defensively. Mikey got a takeaway finally, but there isn't anyone causing any disruption right now. Also, pass defense was pathetic again. Teams have Lattimore circled. He's successfully targeted on every important down. It's scary. Mariota wasn't great, but I thought he had a pretty normal performance for a backup. I feel like that's the perfect way to break it down. No Jaden, Terry, and numerous other key pieces is obviously showing. Debo is the only player with any sort of explosion. I agree. McCaffrey had a good game. I agree. The run game is difficult to understand. They aren't letting anyone on the committee get going. One big play and they're taken out. I hate it. Cliff, that's on you. Also, not sure what Quinn's been doing with clock management and timeouts, but the end of the first half drive was lazy, and then he burned a pointless timeout in the third. We've been doing that all season, even in wins. Way too many penalties. Again, I agree. And also, I'm not in panic mode. Too many injuries, and their best player, Jaden, isn't out there. Got to get healthy, or this will be the result all year. I agree with all of that. The shouts out to Washington today. He said, got to get healthy on offense and make serious changes on defense. They are old and this shows right now. I don't know what we could do, trade, whatever, but it's not looking good. Also, shouts out to Mark Tyler. He said, changes I'd make for the Commanders. So speaking of changes, he said, put Terry on IR, can't mess with a quad injury. Debo and the youngsters moving forward. I hope we don't reach that point, but we'll see. He said, cut Chris Moore. He's old and literally drops everything. Yeah, I mean, he's had a couple of good games, but yeah, that Falcons game made me mad. He also said Wagner needs to be a part-time player at this point. I'd play Cajo. I mean, we need to experiment with that, man. We need to get some of those younger, more athletic guys that can cover in the linebacker room to start playing more. He said, got to get Savage up to speed at safety. Yes, please. I love Jeremy Reeves, but coverage-wise, we really miss Will Harris right now, and Savage is the only guy that maybe could step up as a potential guy that could replace Will Harris's impact for this team. He also said, move Mikey back outside and deactivate Lattimore. I think that's jumping to conclusions a little too much, but I'm not mad at it because Lattimore has been terrible. Also, need more team speed. 100% agree with that. And also, get Ben Simmons involved in the passing game. I agree with that. Also, somebody asked Jay Daniels MVP, do you think we're still going to make the playoffs this year? He said yes, definitively, without a question. And I completely agree with that. I think we'll figure it out and make the playoffs, but it has been an ugly start. Also, shouts out to Rio, kind of unrelated to us, but at the same time, I'm sick of, I can't wait to get Terry back. And even when he comes back, can we get him to start playing like the wide receiver that we're paying him to be? Because you have Puka Nacua, as you can see on the screen right now, killing it. He has 131 yards in the first week, 136 yards in the touchdown the second week, 118 yards the third week, and then 170 yards in a touchdown the fourth week, bro. Defenses literally know that he's coming, and they still can't stop him. So there's no excuse for Terry. Shouts out to Rio Robinson for saying that's a wide receiver one right there, and I can't wait to get ours back. But even when he comes back, is he going to do stuff like that? He hasn't so far yet in his career where it's just every game. But hopefully he can, man. And it just would be nice to have a receiver that we could depend on to do stuff like that every game, bro. His lowest yards this season in the game is 118. What is that? But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you have everything discussed video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video, showing all of the love. Shouts out to my Watch to the End gang, man. I mean, we're 56 minutes into this recording. If you're still watching me and hearing me, especially after a loss, like you came and even clicked on my video after a loss is insane in itself. But to watch it all the way through an hour is, I mean, now granted, I'm tripping. It's 5 a.m. right now. I still got to edit this video and do the thumbnail and all of the description and stuff. And I got to wake up at 8 a.m. So I don't know what I'm doing, but shouts out to y'all for being there. So shouts out to my Watch to the End gang. Shouts out to my late night crew, because this video is probably going to come out at like 6, 7 a.m. Shouts out to y'all. Shouts out to Noti gang that's going to be there immediately when the video uploads. Shouts out to y'all, man. Really appreciate y'all. Leave a like on the way out. And of course, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my points. Let me know why too. If you agree, let me know why. Let me know if you disagree, why you disagree. Bring stats. If you rewatched the game, got any film on it, let me know whatever points you want to bring up. Let me know anything that I didn't discuss in this video that you feel like I should have. Let me know all of your opinions. I want to know basically y'all's breakdowns of the game as well, because maybe I missed a few things. Again, I was at the game in person, so I didn't get to see it over the TV. I didn't get the wide view that a lot of y'all got, so y'all could be helping me learn something. So I'm gonna try my best to read and reply to as many comments as possible. Really appreciate y'all. Stay tuned. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Leave a like on the way out. I'm out.